content!
I'm not sure I was starting this one, man, so...
Okay, man, Nietzsche, as far as I understand, Nietzsche wants man to go back to what he is, a beast. To go back to the instincts. And, he specifies he doesn't want people to just start listening to their best.
When we see people like you, we love our religion.
To their immediate desire, right? But still, it's a bit of a slippery slope, I would say. If you go back to some bestial way, you go back to all the bestial ways. You don't just choose, because the beast is a beast inherently, You can't be partially a beast. It's just how it is. That's why I would argue for the evolution of humans into monsters. And, I understand why I disagree with that. But listen to this. I think, I would argue that monsters already exist. Humans have already evolved into monsters. And those monsters are the ones who are ruling the humans. The ones who haven't done that passage, that kind of ritual from human to monster. That's the big difference, as far as I see it. Because people who are ruling us have a much greater understanding of the world than we do. And they want to keep it that way.
When you say ruling us, what exactly do you mean? Because I could argue that man is ruled by his passions rather than ruled by above. You understand? Somebody who makes the laws of a society isn't necessarily a ruler. The ruler of your will is still always in your control.
Okay, man is ruled by his passions, but if the ruler above you in the structure of power knows how to use those passions against you, then he's ruling you automatically. So you can't allow your passions to dictate every single move you make. That's why the choice to become a beast, like Nietzsche
it's
says,
more than
it's flawed.
I think I'm not an expert on Nietzsche either.
Neither am I.
But I think that's an area where maybe we should investigate more. So rather than questioning him, I'll just use my own ideas. So when you say to become, the ideal would potentially to become. Yeah, you want to move? Yeah, sure.
Ah, it's sunny now. It's sunny.
That's because we got the mic.
Yeah, this is good enough, right? Right. So what were you saying?
I was saying because you're saying to become monsters. Now, when you say that, it brings to mind the idea of what's commonly held by monsters. So you need to clarify that, because as we talked before, I don't agree with you at all. It doesn't seem constructive.
Of course. There are different kinds of monsters, many different kinds. What I'm claiming to be the epitome of humanity is the human monster. Is the human that still was educated in the way humans rule themselves, still was bred to believe in the human morality, but he can see through that morality. He can see that it's not an absolute. He can see it's not divine. He can see it's flawed. But he also, his id is still linked to that morality, and thus he feels good by doing what's best for other humans. The human monster is the epitome of humanity. That's what I would say.
So what makes that a monster? Why is that not just being a more aware person?
His understanding, his ability of committing evil. The possibility of evil is what makes him a monster.
But that's, if anything, it's like what I said previously, is that for me the understanding of the highest form of human is the one that integrates both sides, integrates them into a unified whole. The idea you can be malevolent and benevolent. You can take creation and destruction and fuse them into an ideal that transcends both. That's the superior human, and that requires awareness for sure. Maybe I don't want to just argue over the semantics of a word like monster.
All right.
So, but I'm not sure.
But you don't like the word monster.
Well, it's maybe the wrong word. Because do you agree with what I said?
I agree with what you said.
Well, then maybe we have the same idea.
We might, but I don't think we do. In the end, I think there's some disagreements, but very fundamental disagreements about ideologies. Listen, it is true that humans have the possibility of choice. They can choose, correct? They have free will.
It seems
at least some extent of free will.
It seems that way.
All humans have some kind of intellect, at least. They can perceive what they're doing.
Yeah, right.
However, the conditioning is what distinguishes a human from a monster. Let me give you an example I think you'd like. What do you call, you know the experiment of Pavlov's dogs, right?
Yes.
You know the experiment. What would you call a dog that has the same perception as, the same level of perceptions as humans do? And he would do the same experiment as Pavlov did on his dogs, on other dogs. Like a dog that does the same experiment on other dogs. What would you call that dog?
Sentient.
I call him dog.
Would you call him a human?
No, dog. A dog.
But he has human perception.
Doesn't matter. Dogs are dogs. Genetically are dogs. So when Jesus call you dogs because you're a Gentile, you should ask the question: is it true?
Sorry,
or
this
is
is
it
the
false?
wrong type of combo for that, bro. Sorry.
Huh?
All right,
Are
cool.
the Gentiles dogs or are human beings?
Now let
you-
me ask you another
You
question.
broke the first rule.
Or he actually accused you for having
Indeed.
a perception of dogs.
What would you call a human that does the same
Even
thing
if you
that
have a
Pavlov did to
perception
his
like
dogs
humans, you're dogs
to other
in the eyes-
humans?
in the eyes of
See what
Christ.
you've done?
You're Christ, sorry.
I can't
Or
concentrate.
whatever. I don't even
I know.
So,
I would argue you would call that human a monster. At least that's what other humans would call him.
I just think monster is the wrong word. So my standpoint is that the highest actualization is the knowledge of good and evil, to be able to use it. So if you're aware of your own capacities to do ill, then you could master it. If you're not aware of it, then you can't. If it's subconscious, sorry, I'm getting distracted like fuck.
I know. But look, the idea of good and evil is malleable depending on the situation. That's the thing. That's the
Not
thing
entirely
most
sure about
humans
that.
don't understand. Again, the main difference between what I call a human and what I call a human monster or a beneficial monster is that humans need the constant idea that they are in the right, that they are the good guy, that they are the ones doing what is just. Now, sometimes it can be much worse than to be a monster, to be that kind of a human who believes what he's doing is truly just, but who doesn't have that kind of self-questioning, who can't acknowledge the possibility of his own evil.
Right. So you're
You know what I mean?
saying that it should be a higher form of being is higher awareness of self.
Yes.
Yes.
But that awareness
Then I agree with
makes
you.
us stop being the human that we will be before.
Oh yeah, sure.
Most humans don't
you-
realize what they're actually doing.
because you want to
in their
grow.
life.
Because well, the point is self-actualization. It's quite good because it's a continuation of our previous discussion. That push towards self-actualization is the inherent goal of man, argues Abraham Maslow, is that when you fulfill your deficiencies, when you have your security, your food, your education, your love, your approval, when these pyramids, the hierarchy of needs, right? When these are fulfilled, you reach the top goal, which is going to be the higher growth of yourself, to expand the way that you care about yourself, you can expand that to others genuinely. Not out of some sort of projection, not out of a false sense of like Messiah complex or something like that, but truly. And it starts small. And the really interesting thing that it goes in with that book is the engagement with paradoxes. That when you have an actualized person or someone on that path, they seem to fuse two contradictory views into one. Like to be selfish and to be selfless. They fuse it into one. But this is probably a bit beyond the scope of the combo. What about if we have a discussion regarding the ideas that are not commonly questioned? We ask somebody, they say what they think, but you ask them why, and they come up with nothing.
Exactly.
I think that's valuable to go into because it's too common. You find what do you believe, and they have no reason for it. What do you think?
That's exactly why I do the distinction between humans and monsters. Because most humans perceive humanity as to follow what is just, to follow what is good. But the understanding that what is just and what is good isn't always so, and that it's malleable, it's something most people will define as monstrous, as something that should be eradicated. That is why I'm making the distinction. It's not just of my opinion, I'm englobing all the opinions of people that I've been exposed to through my life. I'm not just saying this out of my own opinion, it's simple observation that that's what most humans perceive to be true. Most humans would agree exactly with what I'm saying, but they won't, because they feel like what I'm saying is evil. What I'm saying is not just, does not conform with their idea of justice. Now, people have a very hard time to question, as you say, to question the things that they follow through their life, because they've been conditioned to follow those things since their childhood.
And the obvious evolutionary social adaptation towards this is societal success. Is to not be ostracized.
Exactly.
And it's the idea of that, is justice, is morality only what's good for your group? If it is, then from my view, it's definitely not. I think there's a higher form of understanding of action, the meaning of action in relation to yourself. If you have that self-awareness, you need to judge your actions harshly. But if you're not at that level, then yeah, what's good for my group is good for me.
For me,
I
the
think
highest
it's
form is
too animalistic.
humanity.
It's too animalistic for us, man. That's what I'm trying to say.
But look, for me, the highest form of that is humanity. If you strive for what's the best for humanity, then you are moral.
Oh well, how can we say that? So what's good for humanity, man? What do we mean exactly?
You want me to give you
Everything is
specifics? Well, for humanity, it's it's cool, bro. It's cool. You can participate if you want. The first step to organize ourselves in humanity is to choose a set of rules to rule ourselves. The problem with that is that those rules, those morals, are defined by the conditions we live in. The person who's living in a certain set of conditions doesn't have the same morality as a person living in a different set of conditions. And the understanding that neither of those people is evil or just, the understanding that their morality is only dependent on their environment, that's the thing that breeds their morality, that understanding is what creates a monster. That understanding is what makes you go a step further than just good and evil, than just human or evil, a good human or an evil human. That understanding is something I would even say goes completely beyond all the ideas of morality.
Well, it seems like I said, it seems more godlike than devilish. Especially if you use that knowledge
it will be perceived
to try
as
and
devilish.
affirm life. Well, maybe so. But if you use it, when I say affirm life, you know what I mean, right? I mean the idea of promotion, that this existence is worthwhile. Because it's certainly not proven by itself. There's many things you could say. You could come along the line of the nihilistic worldview that life is more hassle than it's worth, you could say, or the suffering inherent in it isn't worth it.
Do you know?
I don't think so, but
do you know why I'm using the word monster and not the word God or devil? No. Because the word God, applies to good, and the word devil applies to something bad.
Oh, well, when I
and
say
I
it,
want
it
to
doesn't.
go beyond those things,
Okay.
beyond good and evil. I want to have a different meaning to this.
Or when I say godly, I mean, it's kind of hard to explain. I don't mean inherently good. I mean a fusion of good and evil, an ideal that goes beyond it, that has like understanding of the nature of reality in its truest sense. It's very hard to explain, man.
Well, in that case, your
I don't
idea
think
of
it's
God
a
is...
dichotomy of good, the God and the devil. It's here. It's above.
That's how it's perceived usually.
Sure.
I'm only
all right, but-
judging by the opinion of the majority right
Okay,
now.
so you're saying this is the idea that you represent to a lot of people.
Well, it's the idea that a lot of people represent to me.
Okay, I see.
You see what I mean?
Anyway,
I'm not speaking.
so maybe we're just
I'm not
arguing
like,
about the word.
Maybe we are.
So let's change it.
But I'm just basically coming from the perspective of the majority of people, at least from what I've perceived. The majority of people see God as something good and devil as something bad. I think everybody here would agree to that. Now, monster is something slightly different. It's something disturbing. It's usually related to something bad, but monster doesn't necessarily mean something bad. It can be something bestial. It can be something that's just very different to a human. For example, an angel.
Monster's always negative in English connotation.
I wouldn't quite say that.
You could say beast-like, because that's
Beast
not
is
necessarily
different.
evil.
Beast is
It's like a wild
Beast
thing.
is mindless. Monster doesn't necessarily mean mindless.
Nah,
There's humanity in the word monster. There's intellect in the word
it's the
monster.
idea of man then, a sentient beast.
Exactly.
It's a paradox, isn't it? We
It's
have the
something
mind of a god
unnatural.
but the body of a mortal.
A monster is something that we can't call a beast because it's not in the natural world. It's something we can't call a god because it's not pure good. It's not something we can call a devil because it's not pure evil. It's
right.
something strange, something different, something we don't quite understand, something
Yeah.
goes beyond our logic, our morality.
Yeah.
That's why I use the
Give me
word
an example of a monster by your definition.
of a monster.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand.
An example?
Yeah, like, how would you...
Pavlov.
No, I'm not
No,
a
that's a
monster.
good question. What exactly do you mean? Could you?
Because you said there's a difference between a monster and a beast. To me, it's more or less... In the
More or less the same.
In the same category. Not the same, but more or less in the same category. How would you
If you-
differentiate...
How would I differentiate
Yeah, like,
the
give me
two
a good example.
between monster and beast?
Yeah, how would you... Yeah, give me an
A
example.
beast is a lion.
A beast is a lion.
Yes, a lion, a bear, a wolf, creatures we all know. A monster is a creature that's not human, but it's not a beast either. Like a demon, it's a monster. An angel, it's a monster. A sphinx, it's a monster. They're intelligent. All of them are intelligent beings. All of them have their own ideologies, their own purpose for life, but they're all very different. That's what I call a monster. An angel is not a human, is he?
Why would you call an angel a monster? Some
Because
people
he's not
disagree.
human.
Because it's not human.
He has wings.
So-
He has inhuman features. He has supreme power to humans.
It's his classification
can't
of
be
the word
human.
monster. That's the way he's using
That's
it.
the classification I
So,
would give to the
that's
word.
fine. I think that's fine. For me, anyway, it's fine. Okay, cool. So if we go into ideas that are not commonly questioned, let's do it. Controversial time.
Let's go.
Okay.
Oh, the good time, the controversial time.
Diversity.
Diversity.
Oh,
Diversity is our strength.
Diversity is our strength. What do you think about this? It's an oft-repeated mantra, but what does it really mean? What
It's
do
a
you think?
misused platitude.
Right.
It doesn't really mean anything. All it means is to be politically correct.
Because let's go interesting here. Because if you take the idea of genetics, right? Diversity is your strength in genetics. If you have a mixture of genotypes coming together, you generally, from my knowledge of biology, you generally create an offspring that is genetically much stronger than if you have a pure breed, as seen in examples of dogs. Pure breed dog, well, it's the truth. It's good that you agree with it. It's the science of it. Because you have a dog, it's like a pug, and that shit's messed up, man.
Yeah,
It's
they
not
keep
just this-
accumulating flaws in
Mutations.
their mutations. They keep
So
accumulating
diversity in genotypes is strength.
That's why we don't have inbreeding, because inbreeding,
That's
that's
true.
basically the problem of inbreeding. You
Absolutely.
keep accumulating mutations, and eventually you become, all retarded and stuff.
Very rare to find a
That's
society.
why we are against inbreeding.
Incest doesn't work.
Right,
but
very,
look, at the
very
same
rare to find a
time-
society that has that.
But look,
that
at the
supports
same
it.
time, humans have, to a certain extent, I would say, they evolved to cherish more what looks more like them. Whatever is different to them, they are more afraid of it because they don't know it.
I disagree.
They're scared of it.
I would say that's more environmental. If you're around,
It is environmental.
Yeah, if you're around, I would base it on my experience. If you're around all the variations of people, then and you grew up around it, you deem it to be a norm. But if you're born into something where you only see yourself, and then you see something different, you will naturally feel afraid of it.
Yeah, right.
Because that is the unknown. People fear the unknown. That's how I look at it.
Now, sure, we had
That's why-
we had that combo last week. We talked about the fear of the unknown, for sure.
Yes. That's why nowadays it's not that much of a big deal. But previously, in history, it was a bigger deal. Because, let's talk about, for example, black people. Their skin is far more resistant to sunlight. It takes a lot more for them to get sunburned. As far as I remember, it's like 15 times, it requires 15 times more exposure to sun to get sunburned if you're a black person. It's a very big difference.
Sorry,
And in the climate, in the hot climate of Africa, for example, of sub-Saharan Africa, it would be an actual big disadvantage to be white.
Absolutely.
So
skin
that's why
cancer.
that's why through history, people have eventually accumulated those kinds of features. But nowadays, climate doesn't have a very big, at least that much of a big influence on us. So that's how it is nowadays. And yet, we need to understand that through history, those qualities, like a person being black, a person being white, a person being whatever race, they took millennia to get accumulated. They took a very, very long time to get accumulated. And with them, some other qualities got accumulated, like for example,
Do you know me? My opinion. I'll say my opinion. My understanding when I see different variations of people, whether they're black, white, yellow, the way I look at it is the same way I look at, for example, an apple. You get red apples, yellow apples, I don't know, orange, different variations of apples.
yeah, different kind of
To
breeds of
me,
apples.
the fact that there is a variations in human is exactly the same to me when I look at the different variations of an apple.
Right.
Yeah, that is exactly the same
Well,
thing.
it's the same
The
thing.
same- I don't fear it. I assume it to be the same thing. I don't hold it. I don't think of it as anything. But in society, because the fact that there are variations of people are afraid, and then it's more of a you. I don't know how. What's your
Us versus you.
yeah, us
something like
versus
that.
you because
Yeah.
that element. I think that
Because of differences.
because differences of fear or whatever it may be, superiority. However you want to look at it. That's how I look at
But
it.
look, some apples survive in colder conditions when other apples survive in hotter conditions. That's how it is. There are differences. There are certain differences that distinguish us between each other.
So to me, everyone is an apple. Yeah, you might be slightly
Throughout
redder
history,
apple, a green apple. It doesn't mean anything.
I think throughout history, actually, race hasn't had a huge importance. In some societies it has, in others it hasn't. but previously it hasn't had a very
Well,
big,
how about we
at
ask
least
a
in
question?
ancient history.
Can we
in ancient history.
Let's get a question. Does it have any social utility identifying with race? You understand? Is it socially useful? Does it help us at all? Or does it just make more division, presumably for the negative, right? Does it? I mean, potentially in a nice world, it might not be. It might be something to be like, oh, cool, that's different, I like it. But in the modern day, it's certainly not that. Another idea to jump on when I said diversity, that was the original point. Diversity of ideas. Now this is interesting.
That's it. That's
Because I
the
could
one.
say, if you have a group of people, if you have a society, right? What you want is a diversity of ideas. You want a diversity of opinion. You want a
More or less.
Because it allows it to play off against each other. One
It
of
kind
the
of fixes itself. That you get to, it kind
An
of
equilibrium.
sharpens. Yeah, it sharpens the knife. If that makes sense.
For
kind
sure,
of a
no,
balance
absolutely.
though, guys.
Because imagine if we came here and we had nobody to disagree with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be the most boring time ever.
Of course.
It's the same thing in life. It's the same thing in society. If you push one narrative and suppress the rest, you're not allowing a free exchange. If you don't have a free exchange, how can you ever get a good idea?
Yes.
One idea is not going to encompass all. It's going to be a mixture, and many people don't like that. I understand why they don't like that, but it's a primitive fear. We need to surpass that, right? But there might be a caveat, right? Maybe there can be too much division in ideas.
Exactly.
Maybe a group of people to work together, they need to have a certain number of shared values that are very similar. Otherwise, how could I properly trust you? You know what I mean? I think that's the exception. Diversity of ideas, but also some sort of like the idea of the American constitutional ideas, the freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, bring down the government with arms if they become fascist. That's always a fun one. That there, presumably, can unite people, and people can live their own lives within that country, but they have that central idea. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm not covering it very, very well, but it's quite an in-depth topic. So there, maybe that's diversity.
Well, yeah, of course.
That's it.
We need to have some things in common if we are to have any kind of conversation at all. If we, for example, don't accept the rule that we take turns at speaking,
Right.
if we try to speak at the same time, we get what's going on in the rest of Speaker's Corner, basically.
That's right.
But that's not very functional, is it? We
No,
won't
it-
achieve anything if we do that. Even if we disagree completely, we won't achieve absolutely anything if we just shout at each
I'll
other.
add to it, yeah.
So we need to, follow some of the same rules.
Diversity only works if you have tolerance. Without tolerance, there is
Exactly.
no diversity. So
Exactly.
if society accepts tolerance, you can have diversity.
Exactly.
But what is tolerance?
You
Tolerance
can't be
means that
tolerant to intolerance.
Yeah, tolerance means that you can accept somebody's idea but not agree with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can
Okay.
say, you know what, I disagree with you, but it will end
But
at
it's
that
fine.
point. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
If society can get to that point, I reckon over a period of time, it will narrow it down to one singular idea, whatever that idea may be. If that makes sense.
I don't think it will
I
narrow
wouldn't-
down.
no.
It's not that simple.
I wouldn't say it would come to one idea.
But yeah, I think
An
at least
agree-
people will
an
be able to
agreement
get
of
along
multiple
better.
ideas.
Yeah, more or less, more like that.
Does not intolerance drive passion?
Sorry?
Does it not drive the energy of the conversation and the intolerance? So to say that there would be a place where there would be tolerance, I don't know that it would fuel the discussion, right? We speak passionately because I'm not arguing that we should be intolerant. What I'm saying though is that the difference of opinions is established based on the premise of mostly emotion, not intellectual.
What?
Well, yeah,
I would
our
hope not.
senses and our emotions is what shapes our intellectual or even our reasonable thought. It's what begins it, our senses. And senses are emotions, so we can't escape them. We need to deal with them. We need to find a way of dealing with them. So I guess I agree to that, to some of the things you said.
Excuse me, the science coming from education.
Sorry?
The science coming from education.
Science coming from
Science,
education.
The science, logical sense.
Sense, he said.
Sense from
It's coming
education.
From education. If you have
Self-education.
the difference between one part of the world what is thinking different and another part of the world what is thinking too much different can be for 1,000 years. You can take people from left and from the right put together, yeah. You can watching them and you can see it's the same. But when you start moving and make the act in some moving, you can see it's different. And especially when you're talking different. And you're talking about tolerance and this and that. I saw you have in your hand one ring. One
Yes, ring. This ring.
Yes. What is this ring? It looks like a little bit like a skull.
Yeah, it is a skull.
Yeah. So you keep the true in your hand. Why? Because everybody is going to be equal. Only when it's going to be like that.
Equal in death.
You understand? In our life, no one is going to be equal.
Well, of course not. Yeah.
And the point for this place and the point for your conversation and for another conversation is it to make people more united. This is the point for these places. And it's good because you're talking in this way. And it's good for other people. It's good for people who are passing and watching sometime say something what falling in same shape like who have the speech. Sometime not. But people keep something in their mind who understand. Usually talking in one language here. Yeah. So if people
don't understand, you can't really force them to understand. They might just have a different understanding.
That's why I say this. Imagine you not understand nothing, and you're passing like that, and you're watching, same like what he said, this gentleman with apple. The apple is same, the color is different.
But why is the color different?
When people,
Is there some difference?
When people see one apple, they say, "Oh,
To the environment.
before,
Resistant to the
before-
environment is a big difference.
Even if it's thank you. Even if it's have same color, the apple is have something what everybody know, sweet. Everybody know it's sweet. Can be.
Depends on the apple.
No, I know, but everybody say the apple is sweet.
I disagree.
No.
How can everybody say that the apple is sweet if some apples are not
Because
sweet?
that's why it's apple. That's why it's
Not
apple.
necessarily, no.
No,
Not,
one
again,
apple,
not all apples are
one
sweet,
full
man.
apple, one full apple. Everybody have in the mind. That's why I take it. Sometimes take the apple from the tree and you think, oh, it's not so sweet. It's a little, some is
Maybe it's bitter,
some
maybe
is
it's-
a bit.
But you understand that they're all apples, right?
Right.
An apple
I think
can be
we've
sweet,
lost
an
the
apple
point.
can be
Yeah,
sour.
kind of.
I think we've digressed way.
In this way, is
You
it
refresh
al-
us, Will.
In this way, is it also the people?
I think I know what you're saying.
Also the people. You have right when you say.
No, it doesn't. But when I say variety,
apple,
variety doesn't just begin and end with an apple. There's variety in everything, even the trees, the birds, people, you name it. I don't have an issue with variety, or it just for me it's just tolerance. That's
Yeah,
how
the final-
that's my understanding.
The final
I'm just
conclusion
saying,
is it true? What I say to you, you keep talking about something, but when you stay like that, you keep your true in your hand, in your ring. Yeah. So the true is it. Everybody going to be equal in this.
Well, I never
way.
denied that.
In this way.
I never really denied that the
Yeah,
only
I know,
equality
I
we
know,
have,
I know.
and even in death,
But
we are not completely equal because even our bones will be different shapes. So absolute equality is something simply illogical,
I know, but
impossible. I'm pretty sure of that.
You can't
Yeah,
say who is rich,
Absolute
who is
equality
stupid, who
is
is
not
clever, who is
not
it-
achievable at all.
I mean,
Non-achievable.
You're right. Because
Not absolute
because
equality.
the rules of engagement and thing have already been set.
The rules of
The rules of engagement, or how you go to another society, do you know what I'm saying, or another area, take over a set of people, and what do you bring? According to history, people don't bring anything. Do you know what I'm saying?
What do you mean they don't
So
bring
like
anything?
Vikings, for example, when they raided and went to other places, they didn't bring anything. They didn't bring culture.
They founded
A lot of them
cities.
settled.
They didn't
They founded
bring
the Kievan
culture
Rus.
and
They
religion
founded
or a system
cities in Ireland,
with them.
in England.
You understand?
Well, they
if you're
did.
sacking somewhere,
They founded the
sometimes you're
kingdom of
sacking.
you have to
Normandy. They
understand
founded the
what-
kingdom of Sicily.
but
They
if-
founded many different places.
I would say to the
they
Vikings.
used what was already there. So like in the case of India, they went to India, they didn't bring anything for the Indians other than change the system
Who?
that was already there.
Who?
Do you know what I'm saying?
The
The
Vikings?
Vikings, for example.
In India,
So, yeah.
they didn't come to India.
How would you know?
We don't have any historical facts, historical
You don't have.
references. Oh, do you have?
But you're from Ukraine.
Do you have any historical
Are you
proof
Viking?
that?
Taking a
Are you?
drastic turn.
No, I'm asking, are you Viking?
Well, to a certain extent, I do have Viking blood, yes,
Okay.
because the Kievan Rus was founded by the Vikings.
Okay, the Ukraine. Right.
Kiev and Rus was a kingdom way before Ukraine. It's
Okay,
the predecessor kingdom
Because-
to Ukraine and Russia.
Because
and Belarus.
Ukraine is a recent society, isn't it? It's kind of new.
A recent country.
A recent country, yeah.
Yeah, but the people there are not recent. The people there have been living there for a long
Yeah,
time.
in Europe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even
Europe.
Africa, wherever.
Yeah, we
a lot
bet.
of countries in.
Yeah. But I mean, we've been civilized for
Sorry.
almost a million
stepped
years.
you there a little bit.
So, you know what I'm saying? Huh?
But yeah, well, could you refresh us
But
on the
let
conversation?
me ask you, what's your understanding
Maybe.
of variety? Or that you said that the rule of engagement has already happened.
Yeah.
There can never be
It can never be equality.
equality.
No, there
That's
There's
an
no
extreme.
equality.
Why do you
There
believe
never
that?
was
Because
any
there's a
equality.
system in place. So the system is based on the caste system.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? This is the system of white supremacy and blah blah blah.
Yeah, but
later
right
on,
now, in this time frame, you're right.
later on to be called racism. So
Yeah.
it
But
started
you
off
said,
as
you said never achieve. Yeah. But you said never achieve in this time frame. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is element of truth to what you're saying.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying to you, why would you say never achieve? So do you believe that it can never be achieved?
no, it can't be achieved unless the original systems are broken down.
So it can be achieved.
It can be achieved.
Okay.
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
Has
That's
it
what
been
I want to
achieved?
establish.
First of all, you have to find out what the
Because it
quality
can't
is.
be
that doing of that is the impossibility
What is equality though?
of the system that's already set up.
What
I
is
feel like
equality?
every system
What
will
is
win
equality?
eventually.
Yes, what is
That's
equality?
history.
What is equality?
We
Let's
can go
start
into
with
the,
that.
it's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
complex
What is
topic.
equality?
So let's do it.
Tolerance.
What is equality?
Tolerance.
I wouldn't
tolerance
say, I
is
wouldn't
It
say
falls,
so.
it falls, well, the most important entity of what you were saying is tolerance.
Well, if
The heart is tolerance.
But is it
But no,
when we're
everything
talking
is
equality?
equal,
Are we
everything's the
talking
same, yes?
equality
Everything
in
should be
color
equal,
or
everything has to be the same.
equality in
No,
male and
the
female?
rule, no,
I
the
would
Quality
hope-
overall.
I would hope it'd be
the
quality
starting point
in
has to be
being.
the same.
Yeah.
No, but
Equality is much
no,
bigger than just
everything
color
is
and
equal, everything has to
gender.
be the same.
Okay.
So we're living in
Define
strange times,
your
man.
understanding of equal.
Well, this is a hard point
For me,
because
equality
you
means
can't have
everything's the same.
equality
Everyone's the same thing,
after
everyone's the
you've
same.
robbed,
But how can
pillaged,
everyone can never be the
taken
same?
things
Everyone
from
can never,
certain
'cause
people.
look,
Well, that's equality though, isn't it?
This is
Okay,
the whole
okay,
idea of
okay.
like
I
reparations.
understand,
for example.
but our whole history, the whole history of the planet is
meaning
that.
they can achieve
No,
more
the
than
whole
other
history
people.
of Europeans is that.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know if
In
you
terms
can
of
hold
wealth,
that view
in terms of
justifiably,
status,
man.
in
Like
terms
humans
of
have
That's a
making
got
historically
decisions.
inaccurate view.
Yeah.
Sorry?
It's
How
a
would you deal
historically
with that?
inaccurate view.
That what?
How would you deal
That
with that?
only
If that makes
Europeans
sense?
have violence in their history.
Self-governance.
Exporting it, you mean? I mean, we all have violence, yeah, that's no problem. Civil wars.
Then
and
it's a
stuff.
question of
But
scale.
exporting
man.
it.
It's just
Conquering nations. Like the Romans, you know, they
No,
conquered
there
whole areas.
were empires in Africa too.
I don't know about this guy. you know?
humans do that. We all
No,
do it.
there were empires in Africa.
Yeah, before you
In
even
Asia.
existed. So
In,
what do you mean?
in America, before the Europeans came there.
Exactly.
There were many different empires that
saying,
conquered
you
other
did not
peoples.
exist.
What did not exist?
You did not exist, so how
Did
can
you
you make that
exist?
claim?
Did you exist?
Of course I did.
You did exist.
Because I'm part of those people.
Am I not part of the people
Pavlov,
who existed
we're not-
in
we're
the
not-
No,
you
you're
should
part
take
of.
it
You're
first.
part of. You said Vikings, isn't it?
So?
So Vikings come at a certain point.
Yes.
Right. So my point is, even when you came about, boom, yeah,
What's up, man?
we
Yeah.
already
Boom.
existed.
I didn't come boom.
We already existed.
We evolved
Hold on,
from
and
the
we were
Homo
already,
sapiens
We
sapiens.
were already civilized.
No, but who's we?
We were
You were already civilized.
You evolve.
Us as
Who's we? Yeah.
African people.
When did you start
who's
being
Africa?
civilized?
Huh?
Who is what African people?
African people, as in
What is
the continent.
The continent. What?
The people in the continent of the continent.
What's your understanding of Africa?
What do you mean? My understanding of it.
Because Africa means, from what you're saying, Africa means completely different. My understanding of Africa is completely different to what your understanding of Africa.
Okay.
It might be.
No, it's not my view. It's
It's a very big place, eh?
Okay, so what's the difference between
It's
your
kind of a small
understandings?
point. I mean, everybody kind of knows what we're talking about when we say African.
Not
Yes or no?
necessarily.
No, not
Africans
necessarily.
are.
Depends
I mean,
on how
do you
you
mean
look
by
at it.
race? Do you mean by culture?
Africa didn't come about 100 years ago. Africa has been there since.
I think
So what? Africa has history. What part of history are
When
you
we
talking
went to
about?
Africa,
I'm not talking about history. I
talk
was
about
talking about the people.
indigenous. The people who are
So
indigenous.
when you
to
said
place.
who are you, who are us, it's us, the Africans.
Who us?
These-
Indigenous.
Come on.
The race.
No, but, okay, that's a whole
No,
other
no,
topic. Innit? We're gonna.
Oh, it's now it's another topic.
No,
Oh,
it is
you
another
understand
topic.
what I'm trying to say.
No, I understand what you're trying to say,
Okay,
but
then.
I want
It's
to
a
know
small
if we're
point
going-
in the
we're
point.
It won't go anywhere.
You know what I'm saying? It's a small point
We can
in the
have a
point.
good convo here.
We're using it as a point of
I'm not doing
reference.
for
innit?
bad.
No, I mean,
You
I
get
don't
this?
really like.
If you want to
find
go
out
into
what he
Africa and
actually
from the
gotta
word
do
of
it count.
Frikia, which is Arabic,
The origin of the racism.
what we going to do?
You can go
What
there.
we going
The
to
origin of the
do?
racism.
But the English determining
Well,
that
I
gives
just
you
need to
divided.
ask a couple of good questions.
You understand?
We can go from
From the Latin or whatever, blah
Or
blah
the
blah.
Romans
to give
understanding
you-
of what
Right,
Africa is, or
right, right.
exactly.
So where are you at?
So what Africa are we talking about?
Where are you at? I'm using the
using
word
the-
translated from Arabic.
Okay, that's fine. We can carry on.
So-
It is what it is.
Okay, but man know the history of the word. You know what I'm saying? Some people will make that claim, oh, Africa, why? Don't call yourself African. Stop all that. It's a point of reference. Everybody knows what we're talking about. You
Is
know
there
what I'm
not a
saying?
greater
Yeah,
point
as a
of
point of
reference?
reference, yeah.
Yeah.
But some
Is-
people, you know, you do
Is there
understand.
not a more fundamental point of reference that we maybe should use? Like,
Right.
because like if we focus on the differences, it doesn't really make things better, you know?
No, it's not about making things better. It's
Oh.
observation. Now, this is an observation of history and things that have gone on, right? We know that through history there have been many dictators and so on, so and so. So sometimes, like, through that we can learn that actual absolute force doesn't always work.
Doesn't
You
work
understand?
at all.
Doesn't work. Thank you.
No, no.
You know what I'm saying? We've had Hitler, we've had Breda, we've
Yeah,
had
right.
Alexandra, we've had so many.
So we
you
need
know what I'm saying?
understanding.
Right.
Right?
So my point to him was that throughout European history, this has been the case. Do you know what I'm saying? Yes, he can make the claim.
Only
that,
Europeans.
Exactly. This is my point.
But my question
I
to you
didn't
is,
say
why would that be the case?
Listen.
Is there something different about Europeans?
there must be because
You think?
they have
Why
a
do you say
system.
that? Why do you
They have a system of savagery. Do you get what I'm saying? That we don't have. Remember,
you sure?
we've always been civilized, and we are the civilizers.
We all have a savage nature, man. All of us.
And there's an element of truth to that.
We all have the capacities.
Some
we
people-
feel the drive of violence within us. All of us
some
do.
nations-
no
some
problem.
nations took
No
it to
problem.
another level.
But exactly.
Some
But
nations
my
can.
point is,
Yeah.
within your own diaspora, it's fine. You can have civil wars and blah blah blah, tribal and
What
whatever,
makes it
right?
fine inside
but
of your own
I'm
diaspora?
saying when man are exporting it, this is what they're exporting. They're not selling anything. They're not coming with
No, wait,
grapes
wait.
and all of them type of things.
Hold
They're
on.
coming with the sword and violence.
Hold
And they
on, bro,
sack
hold
people
on.
and they burn places down. You get what I'm saying? Whether it be Roman, whether it be, you get what I'm saying?
What makes it
their-
okay in
their
your
entire,
own,
one second. The entire
within your own
history
people?
is based on that. Violence and blood,
Their
skullduggery,
entire
murder,
So
all
let
of
me
that
ask-
type
so
of
let me
thing.
ask you-
Genocide.
okay, let me ask you a question. Yeah. Okay, you focused a lot on the negative. Yeah. Could you tell me any positives that come out of this landmass you're talking about? Let's call it landmass.
Oh, Europe.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
Any positives?
Yeah, any positive, just so I know that you've looked
I-
at both sides of the argument.
For me, I would say no.
No.
Because everything, is not original to here. For example, everything has been robbed and taken. Other people's natural resources is why we benefit here today now. So I can't agree with that. We are complicit. You know what I'm saying? Unbeknown to us, because we support the government, we support some of us. Anyway, some of us don't. But I'm saying we support the lifestyle that we live.
So
we can
if
buy
we can
cars,
ask you a
watches,
question.
all that type of stuff. But we're not realizing where all the basic materials came from and who suffered and died for those things that you have on your body or your feet or your. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're
So in a sense, we have to. If you ask me that question, as you asked me that question, I have to say no. Do you get what I'm saying? Because everything is based on something negative. Why we're at this point now.
Now the next question would be, okay, now we've established that there is no positive, there are murderers, killers. Now, could you give me a framework or a group of people that did the contrary, that did the complete opposite,
I mean,
so that we can establish both sides of the argument?
what do you mean, as in?
The country that haven't based a society based on killing, murdering, pillaging, as you said.
Bunch of people.
Or based on
Africans.
force.
A lot of Africans.
No, but African is so diverse. Like, be more precise.
Give me a try.
Give me a tribe, give me a dynasty, because then we can understand if it is possible.
You could say Egyptians, you could say the Nubians.
Egyptians fought a lot of wars, man.
For a lot of wars.
Egyptians fought a lot of wars, so
Yeah,
I hear.
towards the end, but how long were they about for?
I think you're coming at it from the wrong angle.
Was
Obviously,
there a golden
my
age in
perspective's
Egypt?
different.
Was there a golden age in Egypt?
I imagine so.
Right, so a golden age denotes there was complete peace along the region,
I don't
or
think
anything they
I don't
owned.
think that's right.
So they haven't had that in Europe. You understand? At no time. You had dark ages, all sorts of ages, but you never had no golden ages. So drop me
now,
out.
you know, Right
Egypt
now.
is a
Drop
much
me out, I'm saying,
smaller
bro.
part of land than
this
the
is the
Right
old
now,
age.
their golden
You
age.
could look
It's a
at
much
This is the
smaller
The age of
geographical
capitalism
location.
and all of these type of things. You're saying
Yeah.
there's a golden age.
Well, their goal, not my definition. It's their definition of a golden age.
Okay, it's their
My
definition of a
definition,
golden
I would
age,
say, I
and they even know.
Who are they
and
exactly?
they even know.
We need to have
Well,
a
he's understanding
They
what
even know it's
I
not good
don't-
enough. They even know it's not good enough. Everybody's complaining about the environment and the society that we live in.
Maybe
and
we
the
should
systems
appreciate it.
that are in place.
There are
understand?
things to appreciate.
Yeah.
But because it says capitalist, it doesn't sound that violent. It doesn't sound that negative. No, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they say fascist on one side or socialist on the other side, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't seem that bad. But the reality is, it's not based in anything positive.
Okay, I get what you're saying, yeah. But you know, the other side of the argument would be that the Africans are not making it easier for themselves, innit?
Why?
Huh?
Well,
I don't know, like,
mean?
let's explore that idea, innit?
Well, if you've been colonized, if somebody's come and moved into your front room, you know what I'm saying? And now he's telling you he wants the remote control for your TV. You know what I'm saying? It's his house. Can you make him some breakfast and a cup of tea? Do you know what I'm saying? This is the exact thing that's happened to us. We were colonized, you know what I'm saying? And then given fake independence to assume that we're free, but it's more colonization. Systems that are left, that are the education system in our country, the governmental system, which is European, it's not African. So the federal government of Nigeria is a European construct. You understand?
I got it. So what you're saying to me right now is that as much as it's perceived that Africa is free, Africa is not free.
Never been.
Okay, that's
Even
another
before
way.
the Europeans colonized it.
Never been.
It's never been
So
free.
even,
So
said
who
that
was
even to
colonizing
today,
it before the
Africa
Europeans?
is still not free.
We weren't being colonized before
By
you
who?
came along. We weren't being colonized. We weren't being colonized.
But you said you'd never been.
We weren't being colonized.
No, you
You know what I'm
just
saying?
you said it has never been.
Don't make
like
excuse
that.
for your people, bruv. It is what
My
it is,
people.
bruv. It is what it is. Colonization is colonization. We can't argue about it. We just saw
I got
it
a
with
question
our own
for you.
eyes.
Should I judge you for the actions of somebody else that looks like you?
You could.
No, I
That's down
shouldn't.
to you. That's
No, I
that's
shouldn't.
down to you, man.
It's a
Is it
ridiculous
reasonable
argument.
to make that
That's
judgment?
not how it works.
As I said,
No, but you have to
we're all
understand- you have to
complicit.
understand
We're
how-
all
why he's
complicit,
saying what he's saying.
unbeknown. You know what I'm saying?
In the
So,
modern day, if it's happening in
some
the
of us,
modern
no,
day,
I would
idea.
say some of us, like yourself, we're all complicit because we live here and we have to abide by certain rules. You understand? The government, the blah, 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 blah,
Right.
or whether it's here or Ireland or wherever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah? So what I'm saying is, and as I said, the reasons why we're all complicit, right? But
So
it
what do
still
we do?
doesn't change the circumstance.
what do we do now then?
No,
if
well-
what you're saying is true,
Well, the first thing it could be, you could like the idea of reparations.
is that going to help?
Everybody deserves reparations, whether it's Greek, whether it's thing. There are many European societies that these people have stolen from. They've taken all their natural resources and blah blah blah, and left them fake titles and fake independence
Right.
and blah blah blah. And then even when the structure, the kingship structure breaks down, they all come here to live. You understand?
I
The
know.
old king of Greece from 1950s and blah blah blah. How many
Yeah.
did they sack consecutively? Do you know what I'm saying?
I understand.
Or were exiles and blah blah blah. So we understand how the system of this country works.
But basically, what you're saying is, yeah, the world is controlled by a particular group of people,
Right.
and peace can never be attained unless the modern social construct is eradicated.
There you go.
Maybe
That's
peace
what I
can never be
understood.
There you go,
attained.
brother. Yeah, that's
I'm with
exactly.
So you're
what I'm
basically
saying.
saying
I
we
don't
are
think
at war even
I don't think it
till
would be
now.
good anyway.
Yes.
It's complex.
Yes.
In a sense,
We
yeah.
need conflict.
Whose peace? When you say peace, whose peace is going to be attained?
That's subjective as well, isn't it? What
good
is
point.
peace? My peace is different. Different to
The
some
same.
people here.
The
Even
same.
you, my peace is different.
So
Yeah, go on.
how is this way of looking at the world? Because in my perspective, it's a perspective. How is this going to help? How is this going to improve anything? How is
I
it going to
think-
help something?
For me,
You know what I mean? Because maybe everything you're saying is true, man.
I think-
But what do we do from there? Because it's really just a second, bro. Just one second, please.
Yeah,
It's really dangerous because I've had these type of conversations before, and it seems to indicate that Caucasians, white people, Europeans are somehow different at the fundamental level,
No,
and that can only go
that's not-
one way.
that's not true.
It only goes one way.
maybe-
Bad.
reason why I
But-
understand-
sorry. There's only one thing that is constant out here. There are the hierarchy, do you know what I'm saying? And there are us, the people. Do you know what I'm saying? So the people come in all varieties, don't they? Do you know what I'm saying? They know no colour. And these people in the higher echelon also know no colour in the sense of they come in all varieties. Whether they be leader of Nigeria, Zimbabwe,
Right, so
blah,
it's the
blah,
nature
blah.
of
It's a
people,
gang.
right?
the nature of people,
Right.
yeah.
It's
So
the
now,
nature of
So it's not just that they're European.
No, it's not just that they're European.
That
But
holds no significance.
but then
It holds no significance. You're not fighting skin. You're fighting an idea.
you're fighting an idea.
Yeah, I don't. It depends on what your
But the
understanding of what
majority,
evil is.
just
but the
deny everything you
majority of
Kind
the
of.
people have that hue or don't. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Are Europeans. So that's why I say Europeans because it's a European
Wait,
country.
do you know a guy called Leo Mohammed? I was here a month ago.
Yeah.
You know him, yeah?
Yeah.
So you've heard of him as well? Okay. Okay, someone like Leo Mohammed,
Funny
yeah,
character.
he has this very, I don't know if it's real, I haven't done my research
Right.
in what he believes in,
Right.
but when he paints the picture of what the white man is to him,
Yeah.
bruv, he scares the daylights out of you, yeah?
Right.
what I'm saying to you,
devil, right?
But he scares the daylight out of me. I look behind my shoulder. But now, look, my question to you is, do you agree with Leo Mohammed? I haven't done my research. Are you on the same?
No, I think
on that?
I think a lot of it is biblical. You know what I'm saying? Biblical and Quranic and whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because the idea that the devil or Shaitan has his own children, his own seed. He will have his own seed. Now, we know this seed to be these supposed Ashkenazim or Khazars and blah, blah, blah. We do not assign it to the rest of Europe.
Shouldn't assign it to anyone, man.
No. We do not assign this to the rest of the Europeans. You know what I'm saying? We can specify who are
It's only the
the
Ashkenazis.
devil's. Yeah.
Somebody thought that before.
Amongst the crowd.
Right.
Guys, this is a real dangerous idea, man.
So-
We're all just human,
You know
man.
why?
These are all
You
just
know why
ideas.
it's a dangerous idea? One second.
No, let me speak.
One
Let me
second.
speak.
This is
One second.
fine. This is
You know why it's a
You don't think
dangerous
so?
idea? You know why it's a dangerous idea? Because if I say something, they will say I'm being what? Anti-Semitic, yes? I mean,
they
what
might say
other
that, yeah.
people have that
a
power?
slight possibility.
What other people are in authority financially and every sort of aspect to do with finances of every single country?
If they're that powerful, what could we do about it?
There's nothing you can do about it. They're in control.
Right, so
why are you saying what you're saying? What's the point?
It's kind of coincident that the devil's seed is in control.
So what do you have to
I
gain
don't
by
think
saying
so,
what you're
man.
saying?
Huh? What, sorry?
I don't know what you said.
Yeah,
go
sorry,
on.
Mark, you know what I think here? I think here that I'm a strong believer in. I believe that the son does not hold the sins. The son does not burden the sins of his father. Yeah. In today's world, yeah, I believe it's my belief here. I believe that, let's say, white people, yeah, I believe that they know what they did wrong in it. Yeah, whatever that wrong is. Yeah,
I didn't do anything.
no,
Just
no,
say
I
it.
don't- no, I
This is the whole
started.
point.
No, but I started off by saying that the son does not. The son does not burden the sins of his father.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know,
Meaning
but,
that
I know what you
Yeah,
mean,
but-
but the language is important.
100%. But just let me finish it. Meaning here that whatever his forefathers did, it's not this guy. I mean, the white man that you see, it's not their fault in the sense that.
I'm not saying it's the white man. I'm saying it's
that-
Jews.
You kind of
This
said
guy's
it was the
probably
white
where you
man
from,
a while
sorry?
ago.
So-
From Scotland.
Thank you. This man has been oppressed. You know what I'm saying? This guy.
Everybody's oppressed, man.
No, hold on. One second.
oppressed
This
by
guy-
that.
Ask for reparations
This
of the
guy-
Jews, man.
What? Scottish need reparations. Should have
Let
reparations.
me finish.
You know what I'm saying? In
It's
a
not,
sense.
it's not going to help us, man.
When it was Longshanks and all of them type of. Anyway, long story
stuff,
short,
good stuff.
yeah. As I said, even us on a low level are all one, innit? We're just people. You understand? The people in authority, the hierarchy. Do you know what I'm saying? Majority of them being European, yeah, who also put in world leaders in these African countries as puppets. Do you know what I'm saying? So that means, thank you, our leaders are also complicit. That means colour is not the issue. That means they created the idea of racism. Do you know what I'm saying? As a construct for them to sit back and like, you lot concentrate on that because obviously with racism and all of these other things like crime and blah, 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 do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who benefits? If we decided, listen, you people out here who are criminals, back off for one day. Take a day off, a public holiday. You understand? Who is hurt by that? Is it not police? Is it not the CPS? Is it not the judges and the lawyers and all of the people that surround crime? So they say crime doesn't benefit, but it doesn't benefit the criminal. It benefits the system. You understand?
criminal is the victim.
That's only one aspect of the society we live
Truly,
in.
the
You get what I'm
criminal,
saying?
the murderer, the gangster, they are the victims.
They're the victims,
They're the victims,
in a
exactly.
sense. And the one who
Exactly, they are the
benefits,
victims.
do you know the kind of treatment you get if you're a murderer? Do you understand? They look after you. I don't know what. You know, like, you go to prison, yeah, but you'll be in the best cell, you'll have TV, you'll have brothers
Free
there,
stuff?
and blah, blah, blah. Lots of stuff. Do you get what I'm saying? So this is the whole point.
Interesting.
That's
Exactly.
That's kind of
and even with gangsters, I'm telling you, when they get in the police station, they're treated with the utmost respect.
Yeah?
You understand? Because you're putting money in my pocket. You're paying my wages.
It's a mutually beneficial
It's a
cycle.
mutually beneficial cycle. Exactly.
That's
You
right.
know what I'm saying?
No, I see that.
Yeah. So as I'm saying, so the hierarchy or the aristocracy or whatever. Do you get what I'm saying? The followers of Aristotle. This is another story. But
Yeah, right.
So exactly, you know what I mean? Us, the common people, the normal people, yeah, are not all complicit in the actions of said forefathers, but it's not all everybody's forefather necessarily.
I understand what you're saying, innit, but I'm not going to say I agree with it, but I do know what you're saying.
Yeah, but this is why I can specify and say these Jews, these Ashkenazi, yeah, are the main threat. You know what I'm saying? These are the main threat to everybody. Yeah, this is the only group that you can't join. You can become a Muslim, you can become a Christian, but can you become a Jew? No. You're supposed to only be born a Jew. You're supposed to only have the Kohen gene or whatever.
Sorry,
you know
bro, have you ever heard of the notion of siege mentality?
Yes.
You know what it means?
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you
I know
tell
the
us
idea.
what it means, by any chance?
Well, you kind of, you know what, a siege has to, you have to have a fort or a castle or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Yeah? And then you're in there, you know what I'm saying? And, you know,
Basically,
they're trying to get in.
You always feel like someone's attacking you.
Right.
You're
I
powerful.
always
Put your
feel
defenses
like
up.
you are being under attack, and
That's
thus
how
you
they
need to
feel.
unite against this common enemy
how
who's
Jews feel,
besieging you.
But the funny thing is about siege, yeah? The whole idea, as I said, about castles and moats are systems that we brought. You understand?
Systems that?
That we brought as Africans into Europe.
How did you
understand?
bring them?
So, of course, we built these structures. This is what we're trying to say. We
When?
built these
Where-
castles
where's the-
and blah, blah, blah.
where's the historical-
Remember moats?
historical evidence?
Remember the moat? Remember the idea of a moat? Yeah? What was in a moat? You get me?
Different things.
Crocodiles, yeah?
But you could have if you wanted.
Right. No, I'm just saying.
Depends on the place.
Yeah?
You can't have crocodiles everywhere.
Right, you can't have crocodiles everywhere, but you can have crocodiles if the people who were doing it were the original
I
people doing
never,
it. So,
ever, through
that just
all of
shows
my
you
reading
it
of
was
history,
us.
never
You know
ever
what I'm saying?
heard of a moat
Why
with
does that matter?
crocodiles
That
in
was
it.
you.
What?
Why does it matter that
Because
it
he's
was
talking
you?
about siege mentality.
No, but in the sense that
So
no,
makes-
let me rewind. You said that it was us who bought this, us who did this. Why does that matter? But the fact that it was you that did it,
Yeah.
whoever you.
So I'm giving you
Right.
a concept. So if you could come up with
What does
something,
that build
hold on, wait.
when you own something? Like, why do you say that? I
So
want
if
to
you can
understand
build
it.
a fort, yeah, then you understand siege mentality better than anyone, yeah? Yeah.
100%.
Right, so that's what I'm
What
saying.
is it to you? Like,
Yeah. So
if
we
you-
built all the
if you do
castles,
something-
most of the castles in Europe.
You say,
know
what
I'm
does it
saying?
matter if you
Someone
do-
want to refute me? You're gonna be a long time trying to do what you're doing. But the reality is, no. We built most of these forts, castles, blah blah blah, and a lot of times in history, what you're hearing are people reconstructing them.
I'm saying it was them that did it.
Not saying that it was them was doing it, but reconstruction was being done, and people would assume that person built it. You
know,
understand?
you're saying-
When it was already there.
You're saying
Just
what
like
does
the
it matter?
moorlands. The moorlands we relate to us as Moors. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it.
But
I don't know anything
you
about
can't make moorlands, can you? Exactly.
Unless
So
you're a
this
Moor,
is
I
the
guess.
yeah.
You
You
can't
know,
make
the
more
Moors
land
of Scotland. You get me? We was everywhere, man. Everywhere.
You're saying what does it matter?
But who's we though?
Wait, let's
What,
go.
that- you mean-
Black African people want you, bro.
but my understanding of Africa is a nation of tribes.
Wait.
Okay.
And it's a big land. What tribe are we talking about?
Because listen, it could
Because
be
look,
any.
look,
It could be anyone.
It could be any.
Because the problem
I
is,
mean, I don't see the world from. Look, I don't see the world from the concept of colours.
but the European did. So
Yeah,
the European,
but that's what I'm saying. That's
European-
that's your mind.
no, the European. I'm a European, am I?
No,
the
but
Europeans.
the way you speak is from a European glass.
The European said,
Yeah.
at one stage we were Moors. You understand?
Yeah,
All of us across the diaspora.
And what
anyone
did
of
the
this
Moors? What did
sort.
the Moors say about themselves?
Bro, they didn't call themselves Moors, did they? You know what I'm saying? It's a description. You understand? Black are Moor, Moor means black. So anyway, so there's another time where it said Ethiopian. They all called us Ethiopian no matter where we were from on the continent. You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those terms that they do. They use these words to describe us generally through history. You understand? And that's all it is. So I agree with you in the sense that it should have been more specified. Yeah, what tribe was it exactly? What tribe was it exactly?
Know the
They would
detail.
never do that. They would never do that in the
Because
sense.
they don't see it like that. Meaning,
Yeah.
'cause even till today, when you fill the application form, it's black, white, Asian. It's so.
It's a bad
What does it mean?
It's
No,
based
that's
on
just
the
legalese.
Ukrainian
No,
trident.
but you understand what I mean?
On
It's
the
how-
Ukrainian
no, but that's
trident,
them
it's
telling
a
you how
symbol
they
of
view
power.
it, black,
And in the
white,
middle it
Asian,
has the something I
mix.
call the mirror
But
of
as I'm
God,
saying,
which is
I don't
building
view the
of
world like that. That's
self-Christ.
why I get confused. Because I don't see the. As I was saying earlier, to me, colours, this is variety. All I see is variety.
There's a
People
war
have an
going on
issue with
there.
variety.
Is it?
I don't have an
Still.
issue with variety.
Still,
I
it's
see
not
the
on the
world.
TV.
from a tribal
Because
mindset.
people don't give a shit.
So, that's just me. innit?
Africa has always had an open doors
People do give a
policy
shit, but
when it
they
comes to
don't
that type of
Nah,
thing.
people don't
This
really
is why colour was never an issue.
They don't give a shit about others.
It was never an issue in Africa.
Is that why you're there?
You can recorded history, blah
Oh,
blah
I
blah. All
left
sorts of
before
people
the
coming
war
in,
began.
coming in. You can't
I
come
left
in
because the
if
economic
you know what I'm saying.
situation is
Because it
not so
wasn't a
great. I
case
left
of
because I was looking for
we
better
conquered
opportunities.
these
Yeah.
man and now we're here. No, it was always a case of
I
caravanning
still
in,
haven't
blah
left
blah
this
blah, like the
place, have I?
Hittite or the
How long
Hyksos.
ago-
This is
how
how
long
the
did you
Celts
leave?
came along.
How
Because the
many
Celts
years ago?
are the
A while.
Hyksos, and they left out, travelled through Europe, ended up
I like this
in
place.
Scotland, Wales, and England. You know what I'm saying? So we can track movements of Europeans, yeah, at different times, and have evidence that matches up all those stories as they travel through Spain and blah blah blah. You've got Celts all over. Do you get what I'm saying? Especially in northern Spain. Do you get what I'm saying? And then into what we're calling into Galatia.
So
or
if we
they
all had
became
the
Gauls.
same
You
origin,
want to tell you about yourself?
then what's the
You want to learn?
difference?
Yeah, I'll teach you about Ukraine. Come on. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, guys. I'll leave you to the conversation now. The only thing that I have to say now is just one quote: "We was kings." That's the only thing I have to say to this. The only thing I can say to this
I
conversation.
just cringed.
I know.
The only thing I can say about this.
Say that again.
You was
Good luck.
You was king.
What a king. What is that?
King.
Nothing else to say.
He said he was a king.
He was
They
a
were
king.
kings.
It's a
He's a
derisive comment.
yeah. Cultural appropriation is a lot in this part.
Come take over everything from your government.
God, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
We were kings and we left.
Cultural appropriation is a lot. I don't mind. You know what I'm saying? Because you gotta remember the baby. He's the baby of the family.
Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV. Man, don't listen to China. Man, don't listen to